Hello and welcome to day 1 of the card making countdown, where I'm showing you how to make 10 different types of card with your Cricut machine in 10 days. Today we're making gatefold cards, and that is a card where the fronts open up in both directions to look like a gate. I've put my message panel on the back for this one, but of course you could add it in here if you prefer. I've included 5 different gatefold templates for you as part of today's download, but remember they're only available for free for 24 hours after this video goes live. All of the templates are left blank with no pictures or patterns on because I'm going to be showing you how you can add your own, so you can make these cards on whatever theme or decoration or occasion you want. The first template is this one, which has got the straight edges on the folds. Then we've got one with some circular edges, and of course I've done another gnome theme, but you can make it match whatever you want. There is a star one, and this is a little different because it actually comes with the stars as part of the template. That's what I've hidden inside of that one. There is one with these fancy edges, and I think these pictures are really cute of the little sloth. And then the final template I've included for you is this one with hearts along the side. So as I said, those templates are included with today's download, but what if none of those are exactly what you want to make? Well, that's okay, because in the second half of this video, I'll show you how you can create your own gatefold cards in Cricut Design Space using any shapes you want. First, we'll make this one, which has got these sort of half flower sides. Then we'll go a little bit more complex and add some swirls and layers. And then finally, we'll combine lots of images together to make a gatefold card, which looks like this. But of course, all of these tips and techniques and tricks that I'm showing you can be used with any images. If you don't like butterflies, you don't have to use butterflies. So what are you waiting for? Go and download those gatefold card templates, and then let's get started at making our beautiful cards. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the card making countdown at craftwithsarah.com/cards24. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/cards24 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all the files from the card making countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. I've gone ahead and uploaded one of the gatefold templates to Cricut Design Space. If you're not sure how to do that, check the description of this video for a link on how to upload SVGs. We need to do a couple of little changes before this is ready, and the first of that is to format the score lines. We need to tell the Cricut where we want it to score. So first, click on the design, and then ungroup all the layers by pressing the Ungroup button at the top of the Layers panel. This will separate everything out, and then you'll see at the bottom there's another group inside there. Click the little arrow next to it, and then you can see that this consists of our blue base card and then 2 vertical lines on top. It's these lines we need to change to be scored. Click on the line layer so you've just got that one selected, and then in the operations drop down, change it to score. And then click the group that contains the base card and those score lines and press attach. Attach is what actually tells the Cricut to do the score line in that position. This will move it to the top of everything else. So to make it so that you can see everything again, press Arrange, Send to Back, and now it's gone back to the bottom. Alright, so now we can start customizing our gatefold card for how we want it to look. For example, you could add some patterns or some print and cut images to these side bits. You can change the colours, or you can add some extra pictures. When I'm making gatefold cards, I quite like to use this middle section to have some sort of picture on it, and then I'll add the panel to write my message on the back instead. If you'd like to do that too, you'll need to duplicate these 2 middle pieces. So I'll select those by clicking one in the layers panel, pressing shift and choosing the other one, and then duplicate. Move these over to one side, and then I'll change this top bit to white as I'll print this out from normal copy paper or white card so that I can add my message later. At the start of this video, you'll see that when I made my knitting grandma gnome card, she was kind of stuck to the front of the card and coming over the edge. So you can add any image or printable or SVG to do the same kind of thing. I'll go into upload and just find my grandma gnome. Here she is. You can purchase this SVG from my shop if you'd like to make it exactly the same. And then we'll make her a little bit smaller. So I want her to sort of sit between the two panels when they're folded in half. So that's probably about the right size, around 3 inches tall. Just going to close that padlock, 3 inches tall. Now, it might be a little bit intimidating, but you absolutely can cut layered SVGs this small. It takes a little bit to get used to doing it, but I have a separate video on how to do that and how to kind of use your craft supplies to the best that you possibly can to get them to cut out this small and intricate. Check the description of this video for the link to that one. However, if you're not feeling quite brave enough to cut out all these teeny tiny pieces of cardstock, then you can turn it into a print and cut image instead, so it will print on your home printer, and then you can get the Cricut to cut around the edge. To do that, with the design selected, press flatten at the bottom of the layers panel. And then you'll see all of the black lines around everything will disappear, and this is now a printable image. And I'm actually just going to undo that because I want to add a white border around the edge. So I click on my very bottom layer, give it an offset. It's probably a bit big. There we go. Change that to white and then flatten that with the gnome, so now that's all one print then cut. And then I think it would be nice to have another border around her that matches the border on the rest of the card. So let's do another offset based on that flatten and turn that into the green. And now you can start playing about with the colours to better match your project or your image. Now you can start thinking about the papers you'd like to use. I don't really have any knitting themed pattern papers available in my scrapbook paper stash, so I'm going to fill these in with some patterns in Design Space and then print them out. But if you do have pattern papers that match your theme, absolutely you can use those. I've already uploaded some patterns which I downloaded from Creative Fabrica, so let's find those. Here they are. They're very similar but have a little bit of difference. And then I'm going to use this one here for my middle. So I'll bring my middle to the front, change it to a guide so that I can see what's going on, and then position this over my pattern to where I'm happy with how it looks. Drag a box around both of them and press slice. And then delete the excess layers until I'm just left with that one. And if that went a little bit quickly for you, I have a separate video where I go through working with printable patterns and images in much more detail and much slower. Again, the link for that is in the description of this video. And then this one I'll put on my sides. So change that to a guide again. This just means you can position it wherever you want to get the best bit of the picture showing through. Slice them out from each other, delete, and then I'll do the same for this one, but I'm going to cheat and duplicate this one and flip horizontal so it will be a mirror image, and that can go there. The green isn't matching in with the rest of my design now, so let's make it a dark blue instead. And I'll also move my little gnome back up to the top. Okay, so I've got one of my green layers selected. I'll change it to a darker blue. Maybe a bright blue. I'll go for bright blue, I think. And then an easy way to change everything at once is to press Color Sync on the top right of the screen, and then you can drag everything down. For some reason, it's not showing that. Blue. Oh, it's because my offset is showing as a print and cut. I need to change that to a basic cut. Because remember, that's just the blue around the edge. So that one I'll cut from cardstock. There it is. So I can click and drag all the green onto the blue, and then everything changes in one go. And I think that's all I want to do for this card. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything cut out. And I've got one more video to mention in this one, which is if you are using print and cut for your gatefold and you're new to that and you'd like to see a step-by-step, again, check the description of this video as I'll add a separate one for print and cut in there. I didn't want to be repeating myself in lots of these card making countdown videos by showing you the same thing again and again, so I thought if I just create some other videos that show some of the techniques we're going to be using frequently, then you can just keep referring back to them as you need them. But here's my gatefold, so let's get it all cut out and then I'll show you how to stick it together. Here are the pieces of my gatefold card cut out, and I've already stuck all of the patterns to the outside blue pieces, and also my message panel for the back I've stuck onto the blue as well. And then for the little knitting gnome, this is my one from the print and cut, so I need to glue it onto there, which is just one layer. But I thought I'd also show you how they look when it's cut out really small from cardstock. So each layer on this one is cut out from cardstock, and it gives a lovely depth and dimension. I've used a little bit of foam square for the nose and hands just to show you. They both look lovely, but I think this one definitely has the edge. When you look at it in real life with all of the textures on it, I'm not sure I can hold it that close and get it focused. There we go. It just looks really, really lovely, but obviously it does take a little bit longer to cut out than it does by just doing it on photo paper. So I'm going to use the photo paper one for this card. Save my other one for another day and just glue this onto the backing. Right in the middle. Like that. Alright, next I'm going to take my base card. I've got my score lines, so I can fold up along them. And it's nice if you've got one to use a brayer tool to go down and get really crisp folds. If you don't have a brayer tool, then you can use a Cricut scraper tool, or even a rolling pin from the kitchen, or something like that. And that's my basic gatefold done. You can see it stands up nicely. So then all we've got left to do is to glue all the bits around it. Okay, we'll start on the back. And here's my message panel. If you've chosen to add your message in the middle inside instead, then obviously you won't have this bit to go on the back. There's mine on the back. And then I'll stick my pattern inside. There's that one. And then to put the sides on, fold them inwards. And then make sure you've got them the right way round. And glue these onto the front. You could also use foam squares if you want to give them a little bit of dimension. I'm going to glue mine just because it's a little bit quicker. This is going to be a long video as it is. Okay. And this one. There, and then I've got my little gnome. I'm going to put her on one side, so just put your foam squares or your glue down one side, because if you stick it to both, your card's not going to open up anymore. So I'm just going to put mine on one side, and then she will help to hold this card nice and closed in the envelope and add that lovely extra little bit of detail to the front. Around there. And there we go, that's my gatefold card, all finished. And you can add any other embellishments or toppers or sentiments or stamps or whatever you want, but when it's stood up, it looks really nice because it kind of opens up on the sides so you can see whatever is in the middle coming through a little bit. And I just think they're a really nice and unusual way to send a card. So now you've seen how to use the pre-made templates that I've created for you. What about how to design your own with any picture you want down the sides? Open up Cricut Design Space and start a new project. To start, we'll make the middle section of the card. For that, go into Shapes and then choose a square. And I'm going to stick with the 5x7 inch greetings card. So I'll untick the padlock box at the top, change it to 5 inches wide and 7 inches tall. I'm actually going to turn my grid lines off to make this a bit easier to see just by clicking this square up here. And then we'll make this a lighter colour. Next, I'm going to create one of the sides of the gatefold. We'll have a little look in Shapes at what else could be in here. So you can use pretty much anything you want as long as it's going to align with the top and the bottom of the card. I'll use one of these Cricut Access only shapes and this little scalloped circle, but so you can use whatever you want to. And then what we'll need to do is first size this to match our card and cut it in half so that we've got just the one half of it coming out of the side, which will then be folded to make the front of the gatefold. So let's make the height 7 inches to match the card, and then we need to cut it in half. To do that, I'll duplicate this shape, or you could make a new rectangle, it doesn't matter. We need to make it half the width of this. And actually, this is a bit of a funny width at the moment. So I'm going to cheat a little and just change the width to 7 instead of the height. And we can fix that at the end. So now we know that this is 7 inches wide. We can change this one to be half. So 3.5 inches. And I'll just make it a bit taller. Then we can drag a box around both of these and go align right, or you can align left, either one will work. Now this rectangle is covering exactly half of the shape. If we bring the shape to the front, you can see 7, 3.5. Yep, I was just checking. I think it's because the shape isn't symmetrical, so I was kind of expecting it to cut in that little scallop there and there, but actually that's not completely straight. So that's why it's not quite doing that. I might actually cheat a little bit and drag it out over there because I think it would look nicer on my gatefold if it did start with that petal. So you might need to play about with your rectangle depending on what kind of image you've selected. Now I can drag a box around both of those and press slice at the bottom of the layers panel, and that will cut it apart. So now we've got all of these shapes. I can delete these until I'm just left with the one that I like as my half of the card. You can see how it will look by putting it over there, and we need to size it now. So our height will be 7, and then our width will be half of 5, so 2.5. And that's how it will look. So when the card is shut with this one, if we just duplicate it, flip horizontal, You see, this is how it's going to look from the front. So this will be my two sides, and then you'll be able to see inside the card at the top and the bottom. This would be really, really nice for wedding invitations. You could add your wedding invitation information in there and have these flaps go over it to close it. Okay, so we need to join these onto our base. But before we do that, I'm going to make a copy and just leave it over the side, as we'll use this in a little while to make some inner shapes to cut from different colours. We'll add these. And actually, I'm going to do the score line first. So let's delete one of these. And then I'll make this an easier colour to see the score line. Go into shapes and choose a score line, and then make it the height of the card. So mine's 7 inches. Select the score line and one of the sides and go align right if your straight vertical line is on the right, otherwise you do align left. I also need to go align top. So now it's really hard to see, but my score line is now perfectly aligned with the edge of that blue. Select both of them again and group them using the group button at the top of the layers panel. Now I can duplicate this and go flip horizontal to make a mirror copy. And then I'm going to position these so that they're just touching my yellow. And we know if we've done this right, because when you select everything, it should be just under 10 inches wide. So mine's 9.981, which shows that there is some overlap on both of these sides. I could maybe try and move them out a little bit. 9.991, if I move that one a bit. Now it's more than 10, which means one of these is now not actually touching the yellow. So I'll move it in and keep it at the 9.991. Okay, so we need to align these at the top or the bottom. So align bottom. And then you can see my height is now back to 7 inches, which is correct. You can make sure that the rectangle is exactly in the middle of the two outer edges by going align, distribute horizontally. You see that didn't actually really change, so I think I had it in the right place anyway. We need to join our middle to the edges, but before we do that, we need to separate out the score lines. So click on the groups that have the score lines and ungroup them. Then in the layers panel, we can click one of the sides, press shift on the keyboard, choose the other side and the middle, and then go combine, weld. That will join them together into one shape. You know you've got this in the right place if you just see one continuous image without any gaps in. If I click this, the contour button isn't active, which shows that there are no gaps. However, I'm just going to undo this and move one of these a little bit further away. If you'd have done your weld, so I'll select them again, combine and weld. If I'd have done this, you see now there's a line down this left side, which means my side hadn't quite been touching the middle one. And if I click that one, the contour button is now active because this is actually two separate shapes. If yours has done that, then you'll need to click the undo button at the top until you've undone that weld, and then just move the one that wasn't touching slightly further in, and then join them again, combine, weld, and make sure you've got no gaps. We can then click the shape, go arrange, center back, and now you'll see the score lines and they're all in exactly the right place. So we can select the main card and those score lines and press attach. Attach is what tells the Cricut where we want it to score. And if you want to, you can then change the size to match exactly 10 inches again, as you'll probably find it is just slightly under. And that's the basis of your gatefold card. You can then, if you want to, add your layers on the inside or to the back, and I'll also show you how you can add some to the shapes on the edges too. But we'll start with the easier ones, which is the middle. Go into shapes and choose a square. We know our card is 5 by 7, so we can have a little play at however big or small you want these to go. I like to untick the box and then take the same measurement away from the width and the height. So for example, let's take ½ an inch off. So instead of 5, it will be 4.5. And then my height instead of 7 will be 6.5. And then that gives you a nice even gap around each side. And maybe that could be in a dark red. Then I could add another one in the middle. So I'll duplicate that and then take maybe 1/4 inch off this time because I only want a little bit of that red showing. Make this one white. This could be where you add invitation details, for example. And then you've just got a couple of perfectly sized mats and layers to go on the inside. But what about adding some extra shapes to these little bits here? Well, we remember we copied one earlier, which means we've got this to play with. The easiest way to make inside shapes is to go into offset and then drag it down into a negative number, and that will take it on to the inside there. That's probably a bit too much. And then we have these shapes. I can flip it and let's move it to the top. And then that would line up perfectly on the card there. And you've again got a nice even gap all the way around. You could do it once more if you wanted. Go into offset again. It should remember the setting. So you can just press apply. And then you've got another shape to go on the inside. It doesn't work just to resize this smaller. Actually, let's just undo that and do it with the padlock closed so it goes in proportion. I'll move these out the way just to show. So it doesn't work to just make it smaller because it will not all change. It's not a perfectly symmetrical image, so you wouldn't be able to then put it in the middle like that. You see it's kind of overlapping on the corners, but if you wanted to stick this right up against that score line rather than having it in the middle, then it does work quite nicely to just resize that original. So you could have that one on there and then make another one, make it a different colour and resize it down again and stick it on there. So it's two different effects, depends which one you want to go for. But I think we can take this one step further and make some truly decorative edges to our side edge card. Let's give that a try now. With another add-on recording to this part before I cut it out, and that's because I cut mine out already and then I realised a little bit of a design flaw that I hadn't thought of, and that was because the side edges don't have anything flat along the bottom, this card did not actually stand up, so it was a little bit of a fail attempt, but that's good because it leads us to something that we can learn from. So rather than record the whole part again, I thought I'd just slot this little bit in on the end so that if you're getting to the point where you're going to cut out your gate card, you check this first. So we need to modify this so it's got a straight edge going a little way along the bottom. First, I'll hide all those top layers and then I'll leave those attached for now. Go into shapes and choose a rectangle or a square. And then if you change it to a guide under the operation, it turns into an outline so it's a little easier to see. I'm going to line this up so it goes maybe into the bottom of that one. Then that'll be nice and sturdy. You probably could get away with just doing it on the side on there, but the more you add along the bottom, the sturdier it will get. So I'll go about halfway into that one, I think. When you've roughly got it looking where you want it to, select both of these and go align bottom to make sure that rectangle is right along the bottom of the card, and then align center horizontally to put it into the middle. Now I can click the base card and detach the score lines so that I can then select that card, just the card layer and the square, and go combine and weld to join them together. Then if I send that to the back, we can attach the score lines again, then turn on everything else. Here we go. And now this is ready to cut, and this time it will actually stand up. Here's my card all cut out, and I've stuck the pieces together. I haven't added anything else to kind of finish it off yet because I'm not quite sure what I'll use it for. But the beauty of these is that as long as you use a fairly generic kind of pattern paper and colour, then you can style this to whatever you want whenever you want. So you could make a batch of these and have them all ready in your craft stash for when you need a quick and easy card. And then you can just pop any kind of embellishment in the middle or even leave it as is because it is really, really pretty. All right, that's our first gatefold card design from scratch. Now let's up the game a little bit with even more gatefold fun. Adding decorative edges is a great way to really show off the Cricut's capabilities and create something that you wouldn't be able to necessarily do by hand. It starts exactly the same as what we've just done with the middle section of our card, and again I'm going for a 5x7 inch card over here. And then we can add some edges. I'll go into images and I'm just going to type decorative and see what comes up. To make it easier, under layers, choose single. And under operation type, I'm going to go for cut only. If you wanted to get the Cricut to draw some decorations, then you could just not do this filter or even change it to draw only. Now I'm going to have a little look. You're looking for an image which will cut out as a stencil effect. So something like this would work if you put several of them together. This one's going to be nice. In fact, I might actually use that one. Let's click that one. Something like this swirl wouldn't work as well because all of these middle bits will all fall apart when it's cut, so you're not going to see them very easily. And something like this, that middle bit of the leaf is just going to be too thin to cut. This would be a good one to use. All of the images are completely separate, all of the different bits of that swirl, so that would be a nice one to use. This one would also work nicely. But I think I'm happy with my choice. This one would work nicely too. So I'm going to go ahead and press add to canvas. I need to rotate this 90 degrees so it will go along one of my edges and make it a little smaller. Let's make one of the edges as a base rectangle. It needs to be the same height, so 7 inches, but only half the width. Remember, one of these will go on each side, so we'll just go 2.5. I want the edge of my card to be cut in the shape of this swirl, and I'm thinking it might look better the other way around, but we'll see that in a moment. Let's go offset and give it an offset along the outside. That's maybe a little bit thinner. I don't want these bits here to touch. Press apply. Now we can think which side is going to look nicer. I'm going to flip it. I think that will look better. Okay, I'll group together the offset and the one in the middle, and then select both of these and go align. Oh, actually, no, before I do that, I need to change the size of my swirl to 7 inches tool, the same height as the card. Drag both of these to select them, and now we go align, align right, and align top. We need to cut off the bits of the yellow that we can see outside of that offset, and that's what will give us this lovely shaped edge to our gatefold card. So I'll go into shapes and just draw some random ones. I'll make it a completely different colour so it's easier to see. And then I'm just going to drag a few of these so that they're perfectly covering all the bits of yellow that I want to cut off. Make sure it doesn't go over any bits you want to keep on the yellow, but it doesn't matter if it overlaps on that grey offset layer. Select all of your rectangles, the blue ones, and go combine, weld to join them into one. Then you can select the welded result and the yellow and press slice to cut it out. We don't need the blue, so delete both of them. And we don't need the yellow that's on the outside, so I can delete that one. And then we can send that to the back, ungroup our decorative element from the offset, and weld both of the offsets together. Now it's just one shape. You see, this is what we've ended up with, and this will be 1/2 of the gatefold card. And we can drag that over. Now what I want to do is cut this swirl out of the yellow, so I'll have one solid colour as my bottom, and then a cut-out version on top to show the colour through these gaps. First, I'll duplicate the base. Let's duplicate that and put it over there for now. Drag a box around these two, and once again, we're going to slice. Delete the black and the yellow that goes in the middle, and now we have our two shapes. But change the colour of that one, and go align, centre. This is what we've ended up with as the side. So when the gate card is finished and closed up, this is what we'll see on each side. It's really, really pretty. Make sure that your size is correct at this point. It should be the same height as the card, minus 7 inches, and also the width of half the card, so mine's 2.5. We'll add our score line now, and then the rest of this is exactly the same as the previous card I just showed you how to make. So we will go into shapes and choose a score line, set it to the height of the card, select all three of these and go align, align left, align, align top. And now that score line, you can't see it, but it's right down this edge. Group these together, position it so that it's just about touching, duplicate and flip, do the same. It's easier to zoom in on this bit just to check. That's probably overlapping a bit too much. That's just under 10 inches, so that's right. We'll go align, align bottom. So our height is 7, which is perfect. Ungroup your two sides. Then take your main rectangle from the middle and the two solid layers, so on mine that's my orangey red ones, and go combine, weld. And then we can go combine and weld to join them. Make sure you've got one continuous image here with no gaps in, which this is. I'll put it back to that red, and then arrange, center back. I'm going to hide these just for a moment so that I can see the score lines. Drag a box around everything and attach so that those score lines are attached and they'll go on the right place. And then we can turn on the sides again. And that is how it will look. Now remember, when you actually cut this out, these bits will be reversed because you'll fold it and then you'll want that one to go on the front. So that one will actually stick on that side and that one will stick on that side. If you want to double side this decoration, because it does look a little bit weird if this was your inside of the card without this shape to give it context, then you can duplicate both of these sides. So 1 and then 2. And that way you will have one to stick on the outside of the card and one to stick on the inside. And of course, you can add all of your mats and layers into the middle too. Here's my gatefold card all made, and I really like how it looks with the pattern on both sides of the panels. It kind of adds to it and makes it look really pretty whichever side you're looking at it on. And then the back on this one is just plain. I really think that something with the swirls like this would look really nice with an wedding invitation or a party invitation with all the details in there. And when you got it out the envelope, you just see the start of it poking through, but you'd have to open it up to see all the rest of the details. All right, we're now 2 out of 3 done on our DIY gatefold cards. So now let's see how to combine pictures to make our most complicated, not complicated, let's call it detailed, our most detailed cards yet. Now this gate card design looks a little bit more complicated than what we've already seen in this video. For this one, I've used multiple different images and given them all an offset of the same size, which is the black outline you can see. And then I've arranged them so that a good amount of them are touching the right-hand side of my gatefold piece. This one's going to look really nice because the butterflies will cut from different colours of card and I'll be able to stick them onto my card to make it fit the edges. And I'm not too sure about my pinks and yellows, but I'll work out the colours when I actually come to cut it out. For now, I just wanted to show you how you can use multiple images and kind of line them all up so that those offsets are touching, and then we'll see how to actually turn that into the finished gatefold. All of these butterflies are available within Cricut Access, but of course you can add whatever images you want. So the first thing I need to do once I've got to this stage is to select all of my offsets and then weld them together. I think that's all of them. And combine, weld. Now there's a load of gaps in there that I don't want. So we'll contour all of those out. And now we've just got one silhouette shape. Next, I need to cut off all the bits of blue that I can see in this side. First, let's check this is exactly the right size. So I grab that and it's 2.51 at the moment. So we'll go a line right, and now that's taken it back to 2.5 and my height is 7. Remember, that's half the width and the full height of the size card you want to make. Now I can go and cover up all these bits I want to get rid of. So I'll just go into shapes, and I think circles will work better this time. Make them a random colour so it's easier to see where you've been. And then cover up all of these bits. Thought I could get away with just 2 then, but I will need a third one. That's going to go all the way down to about there. Then I can weld those circles together. Select, don't know what I did there. Let's click undo. I can click the weld result and select my blue and slice them out from each other. Delete the bits we don't want, so both yellow and then that blue on the edge, and then bring that to the front so you can see. Select both of those, combine and weld, and then if I move it down to the back, it has changed the position a little bit, so I just need to move it so that it fits my butterflies again. I think I might have moved that around when I was doing the alignment, because not all my butterflies are in exactly the right place anymore, but that is not a problem. I can just shift them with my mouse. And there we go. So now I've got a beautiful edge to this, and it will also cut out the butterflies. We just need to attach it to the card. And I think the easiest way to do this would be to hide that base and just group all of these butterflies and hide them for now so they're out of the way. And then bring in my side. So there'll be one that side. You know what we're doing now. This is the third time we've done it. Duplicate, flip horizontal, roughly line them up. It should go to be, oh no, you know what I've done? Forgotten those score lines again. I'm really bad at remembering the score lines. All right, I'm going through this quickly because you've already seen me do it twice. Oh, no, yep, that's right. And group. Now I can make the other one. Make it so that they just touch. That's good, just under 10. And then a line bottom, and a line. Distribute horizontally. Then ungroup my scores and weld the 3 blue pieces together. There we go. Send that to the back and attach it to the score lines. Now I can bring my butterflies back on. And remember, these will actually go on the other side. So these will go on the front of my card, but they'll be on the left side. I'm just going to line them up there for now so you can see that outline matches. And then we'll need a duplicate for the other side. So duplicate the whole group and go flip horizontal. And you can check you've got that right because they will line up on this side. Just remember, when you stick it, the ones on the left will actually be on the right of your card because they'll be folded over that way. And there we have it. That is the slightly more detailed, but I think the most impressive version of this gate card. We're almost done for this video now, but before I end, let's take a little look at those 3 cards I've just showed you how to design in Cricut Design Space to see what they look like when they're all made up. Here's my finished butterfly card all stuck together, and I added some extra butterflies from Cricut Access in the middle so that when it's stood up, you'll see all of those butterflies peeking through. It'll kind of look like that when it's stood up on the shelf. Now, when I was cutting this out, I realised I hadn't picked a very good butterfly choice for these 2 ones here, because if you look at my mat, all of the middle bits of the butterfly actually weren't joined onto the wings, so when it cut them all completely separately. That was something I didn't really think about when I was looking at it in Design Space, but I just wanted to show it to you on my mat, just so that you can be aware when you're designing your cards, just to make sure everything is touching. As it turns out, even without all the details in the wings, it still looks really, really nice, and I'm thrilled with how this turned out. It's definitely my favourite one of all of the ones we've designed. I will need to add a message panel on the back at some point, but for now, there's my 3rd and final completely DIY gatefold card. Let's take a little recap of all of them. So there's this one, which was number 3. This one, which was the second one, and the first one here. And that joins with the 5 pre-made templates that I provided to you. The one with the straight edges, you've got one with curved edges, one with slightly more complex curved edges, the hearts template, and finally, the stars. I hope you enjoyed this video for day 1 of the card making countdown, and it's given you loads of ideas for creating your own gatefold cards in Design Space. Check back tomorrow for day 2, where we'll be looking at even more greetings cards fun. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Bye!